We're on to our next segment. It's time for a very hot topic that's very close to our hearts. Frankly, it's also a little bit controversial. We're debating the idea that you are not your career. Vibhoar on this side stands for the motion, which is you are not your career. And I stand against the motion, where I'm going to defend not that you are your career, but I'm going to defend why that idea is incorrect or right. The interesting mixes that we are drinking as we're debating. We will do an opening statement where he will talk about his idea and I'll talk about mine. We'll do one shot, and then I think by the second shot we'll lose all structure. We'll do a little bit of a back and forth and do the third shot and kind of close the segment.
And then we'll see where it goes.
And then we'll see where it goes. Vibhoar, it's time for your opening statement.
So do you have the shot before? Or
oh yeah, actually we need to have the shot now before we begin this segment,
yeah.
Okay? So.
What was the motion?
You are not your career. Define why you believe in that idea.
In my head, you are not your career means you are not, the entirety of you is not your career, right? I feel it is a part of you. It will always be a part of you, like your family, yourself, your ideas, everything that you've accumulated in your life will always be a part of you, and career is no different. I feel the way the entire society is functioning right now, career is taking the majority of it, of your personality, and it's obviously at the forefront of it, right? Whereas I feel the only difference that I see here is that maybe all parts of your life could coexist in same amounts. And that's why I feel it is not your career that needs to be your identity.
Yeah. I stand against the motion in a way where, of course, a career is part of your life. It doesn't define who you are. Making it a majority part of your identity, why it works. Because I feel like a lot of young people, India is a country which has the largest youth population, right? What you're doing today, what you're thinking today is not just going to shape the country, but the world. And if we talk about, hey, you have 3 aspects to focus in your life: health, relationships, and career. One is career has direct ROI. Of course, one can argue health also has some direct ROI to it, and relationships, yes and no. But I think if you have 24 hours in a day, how long will you focus on your health? Probably go to the gym for an hour, probably try to eat right, probably have some nice hygienic methods, right? Relationships also, you'll spend a few hours with your loved ones, blah, 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 blah. What are you doing at the majority of your time? You need some purpose, you need some guiding star, you need some motivating factor. And the majority of the thing that you will hear from people voice out, and not voice out, they struggle with, is just having this lack of direction. Having this not knowing how to use their life, thinking what to do in their lives, and that's why they end up indulging in activities like alcohol or drugs, or just taking a different tangent in their life. There's nothing wrong with it if done in a moderation, but the thing is, it just ends up going. Then what is it? What is something that you hold on to? You need something to hold on to, and you can't hold on to anything but yourself. So I think first I would want to define is work is not your 9 to 5 average job. Work is what is your contribution to society. What is the value you want to create? And I firmly believe that everybody was sent on this earth not by coincidence. You owe it to your life to fulfill some purpose. What is that purpose, right? So work gives you, because you want to excel at work, you as a byproduct, you end up taking care of a lot of things. Because you want to succeed at your business, you might want to wake up early, you might want to set routine. You would have probably read Atomic Habits as a business book, and you want to get into better habits. You want to fix your health because you want to have high energy levels. But that guiding star you have essentially helps kind of all other pieces of your life fall into place. That's why I feel like you will always see people who are directioned, who are motivated, who have goals, who have purpose, live a much more meaningful and fulfilling life than people who are just like, bro, what the fuck, And I think work is not the end goal, but it's definitely a massive guiding star, just to make sure you're not here and there. You end up on a journey where you go under a lot of self-development, like you also shared in your interview, right? When you went on that journey of self-development, that's when you even saw your business do so much in revenue. Your goal was never, I want my business to do with this in revenue. As a byproduct, it kind of ended over there, right? But you wanted to make yourself better because you wanted to contribute to something else. If it's constantly about yourself, if it's constantly about you, then people get lost in thinking about ourselves. When you think about what can I do for others, what can I create, what can I do, that puts your life in the right direction. That's why I feel like making career, on the contrary, a large part of your life actually will do a lot of good than bad.
But that is where I see the irony of it. I feel when we attach ourselves too much to the work that we do, we are also restricting ourselves in a way that we are attaching ourselves to the process and not the outcome of it.
Sorry, we have to do a shot before or after our opening statement is ended. Now that you start contradicting me and we start going back and forth. Okay, the first shot shook me up.
I can do it sober as well. I can contradict you.
You can't do it sober. That's the whole point, motherfucker. I can contradict you sober. The idea is for us to make it difficult.
I don't mind finishing all of it and then
Contradicting me.
debate, yes.
Sadly, we're just going by the rules for now.
Okay. Cheers. How do you feel now? Did you just cheat?
I don't know if the camera's picking
We've
that
caught
up.
her on the camera. Cheating.
my
Just
God.
finish it.
So many times I would just do a shot and then the
No, just finish it. Like,
remaining ones I would send to a friend or some shit like that. Send to
No,
a
this
friend.
is not that.
देखो गिर गया. You will also
We'll
cheat.
have to
I can also do this shit. Fine, whatever. Mom, I'm sorry.
Go for it.
I hate this.
This is your idea.
Bad idea. But then please contradict.
I feel the whole idea of making it your identity puts so much pressure on you because it's almost like you pick something that works for you in terms of a career or anything for that matter, and because you've picked up that identity, now you have to live up to it. So that underlying pressure of just sticking to that and making it work itself sometimes is too restricting for you.
Yeah.
Right? And when I said it's ironic is because sometimes, actually not sometimes, most of the times or all the time, we know our work is leading us somewhere. Now there's a service part of it which you said, where you say that there's some responsibility that we have to others, and we're contributing to the society. That's a part of it for sure. But at the same time, most of the times, the idea of being successful in a particular field is to have a better lifestyle for us, for our parents, family, whatever. Like in that sense, like you're just having a better life, right? Which is absolutely fine, and that should be the goal for everyone. Why do you want to attach yourself to that process versus why can you not have that open slate, that clean slate and an open mind where you can say, no matter what it takes, I want to be here, right? Then it's not about work anymore. It's about that milestone that you want to achieve. And then you say, no matter what comes my way, I will explore that. I will keep going forward. I will continue contributing to the society in whatever way I can. But at the same time, no matter what shape or form that work takes, I will get there. Now, let's say if you have a vision of, having a business which has a certain revenue or a turnover, but you're actually meant for something much bigger, in terms of impact, in terms of scale. Now, because you don't have that vision itself and you're too attached to your original idea of, being successful, you cannot be there, right? So I think that's where we all are going wrong, including myself, that we know this is what is working for us and this is what we can foresee in the future, that this is where we can be with this particular working style or career or job, whatever you want to call it. But at the same time, this is, let's say if rather than having a career goal, you have a lifestyle goal, right? That this is the kind of life that I want to live. I want to have this much time with my parents, this much money in my bank account, this much time to myself. Then you have a career, then you have a lifestyle goal, and your career will align to it, right? So I think that's there. And other thing which we've discussed in the podcast before is, which maybe coming from a biased perspective, but something that I went through personally, like when there was no business left, I had to go through an identity crisis. Why do you have to get there to understand this? That it's something that can keep changing forms. It's something that will evolve over time. Because with our limited knowledge of what we have, and it's a fact, I've run after knowledge all my life, trying to gauge every situation in a particular manner, trying to gain as much knowledge as I can. And the more I gain that knowledge, the more I realize there's so much more to learn.
Yeah.
Right? There's no limit to it.
Paradox of
So
learning.
exactly, like it's mind blowing
Yeah.
because when you learn so much, you realize that there's so much more to learn because each and every experience of your life will teach you something different. No matter how many books you've read, or how
Yeah.
many books you have in the library, but that particular experience will teach you something which you never even imagined you would have to learn. So I personally feel rather than attaching yourself to that particular job or your career, it's always better to have a more lifestyle driven goal where you're just open minded and you can just keep exploring everything and then you end up there.
Yeah.
Right? And people remember you for who you are as a person, what your values are, what you add as what is your value addition to society. So I think for me, at least that has evolved over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Like I used to have my identity attached to my career,
Yeah.
like you said, basically your point here. I was like that, and I've lived both lives.
Yeah.
That's why I'm coming from a place where I say that okay, now I feel it's more open ended. I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah.
I don't know what it will be at the
Yeah.
end of the day, but I know what kind of impact I want to create. I know what kind of lifestyle I want to have. I know even after I die, I know what I want people to remember me for. That's definitely not my business. That's why I feel widening your horizon a little bit helps. It's a very simple point to make, but it's for me like it's very profound. That's all I'm trying to say here.
Yeah, I respect that. Because the things that you mentioned about, right, like don't attach yourself to your work, attach yourself to your goals. I think the idea is work is the vessel to get to the goals. So the point, again, it's about perspective. I think people look at work in a really limited perspective. You need to change your perspective so you can figure out what you want to focus on. For you to even say a realistic yes or no, hey, I want to focus on this or I don't want to focus on this. Right? The idea is to focus on your process instead of focusing on the end goal. Because if you've attached yourself to the end goal of, hey, this is the lifestyle I want to have, this is the freedom I want to have, how do you get those things? You can't sit, meditate, manifest, pull off the secret and have those end process, right? But the idea is not to make your identity about your career, but you are not your career is, I think, going back to the topic, is actually it's a great guiding star for you to focus on the process. As a byproduct, you end up making those things happen for you, right? What are you doing at the majority of your time, right? Like you spoke about such disciplined things of setting up processes that got you that time, but you had to put in the work to set in the process. That process wasn't set from the get-go. You weren't even built. It's not like, hey, you write it and you can execute that process. You have to figure out what is the process. What do I want to implement? Does it work for me? Does it not work for me? You experimented. The majority of your time went on to this. Now you're a practitioner. Now it's an autopilot for you. Now you can focus on the other things, right? But I feel like for a lot of young people, I think they shy away from the process and just want to go for the end thing. And I think focusing on the process is what ends up getting you all those things that you actually want. And that's a realistic thing to focus on. When you realize, hey, I want to drive a BMW, I want to drive a Lamborghini, I want to live in a house that costs that much. As a byproduct, you think, who do I want to become as a human being? What will I build? And people want things from life, right? The idea is you can want all you want. What are you willing to give in exchange? And I think a lot of life is about, that want is a one-time thing. A lot of life is building yourself to that, building that exchange that you will give to the world, right? And that helps you, that fights the problem that I feel like majority of the youth are facing, which is directionlessness, which is being busy without not being mindful, and all those things. So I think the perspective, people look at work in a really limited perspective. You need to look at work like, have bigger goals, have bigger dreams, not asking you to get a promotion at a shitty job where you get a 10-15% increment. That's not work. I mean, technically that's your job, but that's not defining of like, hey, what do I want to provide to the world, right? And I feel like what you're talking about is super helpful, but that's the end goal. Those are the outcomes. You spend the majority of your life on the processes. And if you focus on the process, that's the byproduct. But if you focus on the end goal, nobody's coming and doing that process for you. You have to sit down and do that for yourself. And I think that's why for young people to focus on, it's actually a great way for them to deploy their energies. It's a great way for them to use their life, is to focus on the process. And I think in that journey, they will go through self-development, they will go through things that they want to achieve, and they will actually end up making a meaningful contribution in their life and in the lives of others. So having that North Star, having that guiding principle, having some chip on your shoulder matters a lot. And I think I have a lot of respect for where you're at in your life, right? But you've also paid your dues to be there. People want to skip the idea of paying their dues, right? That's why they're very fascinated with the idea of resignation. I don't believe in that concept a lot. Failure comes from resignation. Resignation of it's too hard, I don't want to dream big enough. So you resign and you focus nahin, you end as a byproduct, you'll end up in what everybody else is doing, mediocrity, the standard. It takes a lot of fight, it takes a lot of willingness to fight for the process. And be like, like you saw the P&L of a standard service rail industry, you're like, fuck that shit. I'm not going to do 15%, I'm going to do 30%. Work went into that, right? So I think focusing your life on work helps you develop so much as a human being that you can even get to a point of emotional intelligence, you can get to a point of intellectual intelligence, you can get to a point of spiritual intelligence, because when you're building something bigger than yourself, which I really feel like what you should incorporate career and work in. Career is not, hey, I do a sales job in a fucking startup. Yeah. Your career is, who do I want to be? What work do I want to do? What exchange do I want to give in terms of what I get paid for it? So I think that's how I look at work, and I think for people to not sign into the idea of resignation, deploy the time, deploy the energy that it needs to take, and that's what majority of their life occupies. So I think they'll stop struggling with being directionless. They'll end up becoming great friends. They'll learn how to network with people. They will become better communicators just because they have that goal that they're fighting for. Your goal can't be, hey, I want to make a lot of money. Great goal to have. Everybody wants to be rich and thin. But if you focus on the work, which is the process, I think that make a lot of difference.
So before I make my point, do we have another shot? Or how does this work?
Yeah, now I think we can maybe do like closing, because I think the idea is that I agree with what you're saying, right, on a lot of levels. Yeah. I have a lot of respect for it. I mean, I can't agree with what you're saying.
But I still have things to say.
Okay, then we just probably do half a shot.
What? No, we're doing full shot.
Then how will we do the fourth shot? We can't do any
We'll pour more, no? We have it right here.
And the reason this fucking thing is taped out is because Patron, this could have been you. I'm not giving you any free advertisement. But we're still waiting for our sponsors and stuff. You know who you are. All the decision makers. You could have been associated with this great.
But
all of that stuff.
Let's go for another shot. I'll
contradict you.
I'll try to. And
ठीक है that is half करते हैं यार कौन दे पाएगा.
Let's do full.
Wow, I am shocked and surprised. I don't think I have the permission to even contradict you because I can't finish a shot.
Go for it. This is what we planned.
What contradiction do you want? इस पे क्या contradict करूँ? Like, no, don't focus on the process.
करना यार. क्या हो गया भाई?
This my friends are parties trying to like
direction बता रहे हैं podcast ले जाएं. हाँ. साथ में फिर मतलब ऐसे पूरा crazy कर देंगे.
My friends every Saturday like, come on, yeah, you can do a shot. I'm like, no guys, I can't. And I end up throwing a shot at the fucking this thing. No, I can't because I have 3 cameras on me.
It's okay. Don't. What cameras?
So what are you encouraging me to throw it?
Move.
Last shot. After this, no shot. You contradict me, I'll contradict you. Makes no sense. Fine.
भूल गया क्या बोलने वाला.
That's just the idea. क्या इतना अच्छा पॉइंट बनाया क्या contradict करोगे? Let me see. That's a dustbin of my status.
थोड़ा बस याद दिला दे तूने बोला क्या था मैं भूल गया.
I was talking about what you're talking about. The end goals.
And you said like the process is more important.
Work is the process. You can't focus on the end goal. You need to focus on the process. That's what you invest in the majority of your life in.
So I understand where exactly you're coming from, and I agree with most of the things that you said. But sticking to the main topic that we have for the debate today, you're not a career, right? But when you look at people, when you get that one label, or when you just understand what their career is, what comes to your mind first? Like, if you talk about me, what would be my career? I think you're just getting started. You're a phenomenal business person. I will not associate your career to a salon. That's why I'm saying people struggle with a limited perspective. You're a phenomenal business person and a great leader who knows how to activate people. You know how to bring people together. And that will be a long-standing gift. Whether you're in a salon industry, or you could be running a tech company, or you could be a life coach, it could be anything. That's your career. That's your contribution to the world. Your activation of people and the way you kind of are so great with even customer service and stuff that you've established. Operating as a really thoughtful business leader to operate good services. That's your career. It could be in any vessel you want it to be. But then that that differs from the typical definition of career that we have, right? Because this entire conversation, when a person who is watching the podcast, when they will watch this, the first thing that will come to my mind is that either the job that they're doing or the field that they're in or whatever they label it as. That's the first thing that will come to the mind. When we make it so open-ended that we say that your career is something that keeps evolving with time, and the entire conversation changes.
Yeah.
But from that limited perspective, as what you mentioned, if I talk about someone who's like me, watching a podcast, listening about this entire conversation, I would think my career is, running a salon chain, or my career is being in service industry. At least, like that's the kind of level I would go to when it comes to expanding my vision. But my career can never be so open-ended that from today running a salon, being a life coach tomorrow, or third day I'm doing something completely different, which I've not even imagined yet. So I feel the predefined definition of a career, the way we envision it, the way we see it, it's very different. So from that perspective, I feel you're not a career, because ultimately you can be whoever you want in that particular moment if you keep working on it, and if you have that one particular goal as a lifestyle goal consistent, and then your career keeps evolving, because your career essentially describes what you're doing professionally in that particular stage of your life. So that's what career means to me, and that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah. But from a standalone perspective, the most professional social media page representation of work life is LinkedIn. When you go to the career section, the career is never a job. The career is a list of things that you've done. You have specifically been in the very specific industry for the past 15 years, right? I'm in a place where for 2 years, I've been a venture capital fund. I've been a B2B SaaS tech company in the Web3 blockchain space. I've been doing my podcasts, I'm running a business. When I talk about somebody's like, hey, what's your career? I'm not very attached to that identity of a venture capital or anything else. My career is everything that I've done. And from that, the common denominator is like the relationships I build with people, the problem solver I am, and my ability to hustle little bit of things and just, get things done, right? I identify that. So I think the problem here becomes, what do you even identify as a career? If in your mind, your career is something that's really limited, you box yourself in. So it's not the career that's the problem. You're the problem because you're confining yourself in one space, right? But essentially, a career is something that gives you a North Star. Of course, it can keep evolving. That's why it's called a career. It's not called a job. We're not saying you're your job. That's the wrong definition. We're saying you're your career, which is a series of things that you've done. And by the very definition of a career means your work experience. Your work experience, you've been in one place, but for somebody who's been in 15 other things, I would start having an identity crisis. But the reason I don't struggle with an identity, we did struggle with the identity crisis when I quit my job, but I brought myself back to it because I'm like, that's not who I was. My career is my contribution to what I bring to the business world today, for example. That's a common denominator, my direct value exchange. So I think people look at work in a limiting way. That's why they struggle with it. They need to change their perspective. And because the reason they need to change their perspective is if it's not your career, if it's not your work, what is your North Star? What is something that consumes you? Even if it's music, even if it's your passion needs to pay your bills. And when something that pays your bills is a job, essentially becomes a part of your career. So I think people need to focus on it. They need to think, what is their contribution to society? They need to put the importance of being able to provide for themselves and not just survive but end up thriving. It happens when you solely, vigorously, insanely focus on one single thing. You will never find, I don't know what that example looks like, where people are successful as generalists. But essentially wealth is built in concentration. What are you concentrating on? Even if you want to become an investor, even if you want passive income in your life to chill in life, that's your chilling area in life. On that chilling life. But to earn that chilling life, it doesn't happen. You can't magically put some formula, start earning passive income and live on the beach. People need to put in that time and effort and energy. That's why I'm making the majority of their life to understanding, hey, how am I using my time and energy to make myself an all-rounded person, to have a great career that can provide for myself so I can do the other things. Those other things are still the end objective. Your process is your life, is what you end up spending. The thing that will build you a lot of wealth, the thing that will actually end up giving you a lot of fulfillment or freedom and all those luxuries that we want. Luxuries can be different. For me, it could be $100 million. For you, luxury can be having say 7 months of vacation without being answerable to anybody. Right? I think those luxuries are earned in life by putting in that. Those are the byproduct of the work that you put in, right? And I think that is, people need that North Star in their life. You can't just focus on the end goal and somehow magically end up reaching that. Until you've paid the dues, until you've put in that time and effort in life. That's why, I think people frown upon a lot on luxuries. Like, why do you want an expensive car? You can drive a cheap car and still get you from point A to B. Most of the people who say that can't afford that car. That's number one thing. But I think just from a work perspective, I'll tell you how work becomes of the utmost importance. And by what you're also saying becomes of the utmost important, but it can't be the focus. Say you want to drive a BMW, right? You're like, okay, that's a 50 lakh car. For a 50 lakh car, I need to put a 20 lakh down payment and I need to pay probably 50K in EMIs, right? You immediately realize, hey, what is it that I want to do? What is the monthly expenditure that I need for myself? You realize you need to make a minimum of 2 to 3 lakhs a month, right? You realize in India, people are not willing to pay you 2-3 lakhs a month. And you're like, hey, maybe I want to build a business. In the process of building that business, you end up building so much employment for other people. Or if you end up getting a job that pays you that much, you actually have to become somebody really exceptional in the ecosystem that we're in today. But it was essentially that car, which is that end objective. But the story does not become, hey, I have a car so I can flex on people. The story becomes you became the person who can afford the car. But that process got you it. And that was fucking putting in the work, right? So I think luxuries actually help you aim for excellence. You need to become excellent to want great things in life. You should want great things in life. Focusing on wanting great things, like everybody wants great things. Everybody wants the money. Everybody wants freedom. Everybody wants all the time with themselves. All of those byproducts come with putting in the work, spending time in the process, putting your head down, paying your fucking dues, and then things happen. So for young people with the Instagram life, everybody's seeing what end objective they want. Everybody can have a vision board. But can everybody sit down and fucking write down the process of what it's going to take? I'm going to build a business. And just sit down and write, how do I get a fucking high paying job if I want to work a job? What the fuck are you want to work a job that pays you 50K? That's not your career. If that's your career, then you're fucking, I don't know what. If you're happy doing that, good for you. But if you're not, then that's not how you can define it, right? So I think actually for a lot of people, because they can't pay their bills, that's the most basic thing, right? Survival. People are in toxic homes with their parents because they can't pay their bills. People are maybe stuck in toxic relationships because they're not feeling fulfillment in themselves, so they're trying to find fulfillment and happiness to other places. This is a place which gives you direct ROI. You spend the time, you put in the work, and it fucking will pay you back. It's going to pay you back in money. And of course, now people will make the argument there's only depressed millionaires in the world, right? So be smart about it. Of course, don't be a fucking idiot about it. And maybe it's politically incorrect to say. I'd rather try, Ferrari and then go on a journey of meditation and resigning, fucking build nothing and start there. So I think a lot of young people need to understand what is it. They have so much energy and so much time in them. They need something to focus on. Focusing on the process will get you everything in life. Then you're at a place where you can be the decision maker. If you want to deep dive into luxuries, you can do that. If you want to deep dive into living a very minimalistic life, you won't have the luxury to make that choice. Put yourself in that position first. And then talk about what is happiness and all that stuff. I think that's my end thought on it. But I think both our opinions are super strong and I think both have validation because like you correctly said, right? If you fucking get laid off, what? Then you fucked. The idea is to rebuild. And like I said, I think the biggest mistake we make, maybe you struggle with it because you've been in a very specific industry. So your direct identity is with that industry, right? But if you've spent 3 years in 7 industries and you will never associate with an industry, then your career is you and what you bring to the table.
Yeah.
So I think that's the difference.
No, actually, my conversation itself is coming from a place where I've juggled between different industries, where I've been a certified life coach and running a salon business and being an advisor to other business. And I've realized that at the same time, while doing all these different jobs, I've had this one underlying tone of, being someone who I really am, like from within. The core values remain the same. My thought process remains the same. The vision that I have remains the same. Because that's who I really am at the core of it.
Yeah.
At the same time, I feel when I attach myself too much to my career, I'm limiting myself to a point that the goal that I have feels too personal. In the sense that, let's say if I'm running a business, which is whatever it is, like whatever brick and mortar, whatever it is, I have a vision of making that business reach a certain level. And I think that's not uncommon. Like that's common with every fucking person that you meet. They would run a business or they would be in a job and they would have a certain end goal. But at the same time, if my identity is attached to the vision that I have, which 99% of the times is not uh, directly correlated to the career that you have, in the sense that if I have a vision of like creating a positive impact in the world, it's not just through my business but also through my actions in my personal life, through content that I'm making on Instagram, through everything that I'm doing. Right? So in that case, I feel it's not just my career; it's everything that I do. So from that perspective, I don't label myself as the person who is living this life as a professional. I'm labeling myself as the person who's living this life with full authenticity and with full conviction that this is how I want to live my life, and this is how I want to inspire other people to live their lives. Right? It could be through my career. It could be through the way I have my personal interactions, like with a friend like you, or it could be through my personal interactions with someone like my father.
Yeah.
It could be in any aspect of my life. But I'm not defining myself, or I'm not limiting myself to that one box of, just creating an impact through my career.
Yeah.
From that perspective, I feel it feels more open-ended.
Yeah.
Because I can do whatever I want and whatever timelines.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I just have this one single message that I want to convey. Because I'm attached not to my career, but maybe to my vision. And that career, as you also said and acknowledged, and the point that we're trying to make, that the careers can keep shifting forms. It can keep changing, it can keep evolving. But that core vision that I have will remain. How you said that purpose in life? I think that purpose is not defined by your career. That purpose is something much larger, and career is a great part of it. It's one of the biggest parts of your vision. Through your career, historically, people have been able to make the largest kind of impact in the world, because through your career, you can reach out to more people. You have much more access to the resources that you need to reach out to those many people. Right? That's how you create impact. But if I limit myself to an identity, I feel that impact would take a backseat, and my need for being successful in that particular field would be in the forefront, or my need for being able to be at a position where I can create that type of impact would come in the forefront. So rather than being very extremely successful in that particular field, I would rather be someone who can just have that kind of influence where I can actually influence people to take a different route. It could either be through the business that I'm doing, or it could be through my personal interactions with my friends, or it could be something like social media platforms for that matter. So that's why I feel your career is one part of your personality.
No, 100%. I feel like, see, when you see career, you feel like boxed up, you feel very limiting, and you feel like I'm so much more than that. And I feel like maybe it's also a phase of life aspect. Somebody who's in their early 20s to 30s, I don't think they should focus on anything else but their career, because as a byproduct, if you want to excel in what you're doing, whether it's a business or a job, you end up as a byproduct building that work ethic. You end up building great habits. You end up building discipline. You end up building a great network of people because you want to figure out resources. That gets you to that level of self-development that accelerates because you have a very specific goals, blooms. And then you can figure out all the other aspects in life, right? A lot of people don't have that discipline to keep their career aside because you also have something going. You're not worried constantly about paying your bills. Sometimes the people can't do that. And they can pay their immediate bills, but they're not satisfied with where they're at. That's when they end up indulging in a lot of bad habits or bad influences or short-term cheap dopamines and stuff, which kind of get them in a bad place in their life. So for you to figure out how do I put myself in the right direction? So career is a very safe, nice, happy option. Please find a good thing you want to do. Please work hard. Please make great contributions to society. You'll develop into a phenomenal human being. If you're determined about creating value in the world, If you're determined to make a lot of money, you will have to create value. Nobody's going to throw money at you like this, right? And if you become that person, once you've kind of fully, fledgedly, you become financially independent, all those pieces, figure out your life. You have your entire life to figure out your life. And those hardcore years where you're building your grit, when you're building basic things, that, like, why will you stay up at 3 in the morning? You won't stay at 3 up in the morning to be a better friend. You won't pull up in one nighter to, kind of focus on your health. You will pull an all-nighter when you're focusing on your career to, again, like we said, career in an expansive term, whether it's building your business and stuff like that. I think that level of self-development that you need to go through, I will probably not be having this argument with somebody in their 40s or 50s. I hope I'm not having that argument. Give you a really sad life and I'm telling people that you should be a careerist.
Mm-hmm.
In those early days, you have to put in the work to become that person and, kind of flow through it. But I agree with your point 100%. Like, I hope I'm not the person where all I'm bringing to the table is what I've done professionally.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a huge part of who I am and everything around me that I've kind of built with. Like my desire to support my family or have great friends and stuff like that. Like I will not engage with people who are energy depleting because I'm focused on my work, and that as a byproduct has triggered good friendships and so many other things. So I think I'm able to hold my stand strong, I think that probably that expansive view of what your career is, that's really going to help people. And that deployment of energy and time, I think is going to, as a byproduct, build grades. And I think you need to pay that due. You need to fulfill the side to come to that side. I just think a lot of people will benefit from that a lot. And a lot of people have the clarity that, hey, I have something else, that my impact looks like something else. They will actually resonate with this thought a lot. Sadly, I think the reality is that the majority of people don't know what that impact is. So might as well pick up a really tough goal and fight your hardest. As a byproduct, you just become an excellent person. I think instead of really going about your life, pick something up that has direct ROI. And just as a byproduct, a lot of good things will happen to you. That's our perspective on it, I think. But
no, of course, I get that. But at the same time, what you said, the sense of having a career, and you said that your career is not the only thing. Like there are other things apart from your career which add value to your life, right? Like from your friends, your relationships, to your family, all of that. And why do you see a need to attach yourself to a career, whereas you can attach yourself to every other thing in your life as well? That's something that I feel is sort of like disconnect for me, and I could be completely wrong in that area because that's a viewpoint that I have. But at the same time, I feel if there are 3 parts of your life, like we discussed, like health, relationship, and your career, why do you not attach yourself to all 3? Or why do you give importance to just one? Is it just the phase of your life that you're in? Or is it just how we're supposed to live our lives? The entirety of it. Like, that's what I'm trying to understand.
yeah, I think on my closing argument, I think I'd say that direct ROI from perspective, there's no direct ROI in relationships. Either relationships work out or they don't. I don't have control over that. If I love somebody, I can't get them to love me back, right? I don't think, of course, if your family is great, there's a lot of direct ROI in spending great quality time. It will make you feel fulfilled. If your family is fucking toxic, you can't build a new family. I have no control over that aspect of my life. I can't control human beings and their emotions. Right? From a health perspective, direct ROI, how much time am I going to devote to my health, right? Only in limited perspective. It's a more long-term compounding effect than every day putting in hours and hours worth of your time. Career is just something that I can devote a majority of my time and get direct ROI from it and get so many byproducts from it, whether it's building a great work ethic, whether it's making a lot of money, whether it's becoming next in human being, whether it's reading so many books because I want to become better, building my intellectual capacity. If I want to build a lot, I will learn how to deal with stress. So I have to build my spiritual capacity, all those things. So the idea is spending majority of your time, what do you want to dedicate it to? And I think, yes, 100% it's a phase aspect, because I think right now a lot of people are trying to find happiness, find fulfillment. And I think happiness and fulfillment are byproducts of what you want to do and how you decide to spend your time. If the idea is how do you want to spend the majority of your time, which kind of defines who you are, I think picking up a career, picking up a great goal for yourself and just doing a lot of good. From a closing perspective, I think the reason I have such strong opinions of it, because every time I feel myself getting lost, I would love a friend with my whole life and something happens and they drop the ball or I drop the ball. then what the fuck's going on? Or from a health perspective, I mean, I struggle with maintaining my health and all that. That's another thing. But from a career perspective, that's one thing that's always given me more than it's giving me a great exchange. From a spiritual perspective, I think, of course, I would give and I would get 10x back. From a giving perspective, engaging in a giving activity, I would give 10 and I would get 100. Career is one thing. Everything I'm lost in, like, how do I focus on? I would focus on it, focus on my career, whether it's a job, whether it's business. But that's why I make sure to be extremely ambitious. So my career, which I get a lot of my identity from, is not something that's extremely limited. It's actually so expansive that I have to become that person to achieve that expansive state, and gets me a lot of byproducts. So I think, like they say, it's lonely at the top. I want to fight for that. I want to achieve that. And maybe when that happens, at least I'll be so happy that, hey, I really fucking utilized so much of my brain cells, so much of my potential, so much. I used my life well. I really, like, when I'm probably on my deathbed, I'll be like, fucking, I gave it my, to make something, to build something. I would feel satisfied. I think that idea I really resonate with. And I think that's why career for me, I just look at it like that. That's why the idea that I resonate with. Like today, honestly, I'd love working. And again, working for something you care about. I would hate working for my job with a boss I didn't respect enough. But if I'm working towards something I really care about, I would rather spend a Saturday night at a fucking 4 a.m. working on that. And that keeps me up at night and makes me feel alive. So that's where I'm coming from. Any closing thoughts from your end?
I just feel, I think we both have very strong opinions on this particular topic. And we're all at different stages in our life where we probably have, different priorities.
Yeah.
The only apprehension that I have with attaching our identity to our career is that we sometimes feel that through the process or through whatever we're doing, we've not yet reached there. So what happens at the end of the day is that we sometimes, because it keeps evolving, we never reach our goal. Right? In our lives, we keep going through our life and we realize that there's always a new goal that we have in our mind in terms of a career, because it's something which is not definitive. The goal that we set in terms of a career. In terms of a lifestyle goal, I feel it's more definitive in the sense that if I want to just be happy, I can be that in this particular moment itself. Right? In terms of career, that goal will always be in the future.
Yeah.
Because of which I will keep running after it. And sometimes I feel after a point, you get tired. I don't know. For some reason, I have maybe come across people so much in my life that after a point they realize that, maybe this career was important, but at the same time, living my life and enjoying my life was as important, that process. So maybe it's coming from that biased perspective, but I truly believe that your career is not the entirety of your life. Like everything else comes along with it. Yeah. Your career will definitely give you direction, in the sense that if you find things that you're passionate about, for example, you will keep working on them and you will find ways to monetize them, right? That's essentially what career means for me. Like for me, it does not mean that I saw this person, very cool, I aspire to be like him, and this is what my career path looks like. For me, career path is very simple, that this is what my skill set is, this is what my experience is, this is what I have as a vision. If I combine all of them together, this is what my career looks like. And this is it right now, but I don't mind if it evolves in the next 6 months.
Yeah.
2 months, 3 months.
Yeah.
Or 6 years for that matter.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm not attaching myself to that identity.
Yeah.
I'm saying that this is where I want to be and this will keep evolving.
Yeah.
And it will keep changing.
Yeah.
So purely, strictly from that perspective, I feel not attaching yourself to your career makes sense.
Yeah. Any thoughts? I have a lot of respect for what you think. I think there's so much merit in it for people who are in the right headspace. I still feel like people who are figuring it out, who are still like lost, which I feel like the majority of people are, they better fucking pick a great goal for themselves so that they're not out and fucking fighting for fulfillment and happiness in empty things. You need to work for your happiness. It doesn't come to you. Sure, you can meditate and try to be happy in the moment, but for a majority of people, it might not work. It's just a good, safe.
It's not about meditation. Like it's all about, like this terminology itself. Like you talk about happiness. Like, do we really know what happiness is? So it's all about that. Like you find your meaning of happiness and you work towards it. Like that's what I feel. Like this entire conversation about career,
Yeah, actually.
or health, or job, whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
You find your definition of everything.
Yeah.
And you follow it. That's it.
Yeah.
Right? There's no right
Both of
or
us can
wrong.
agree on.
It's like something which is so simple and fundamental, right?
Yeah.
Like your happiness is defined by you.
Yeah.
Your sadness is defined by you.
Yeah.
Your level of success is defined by you. Then who are we to sit here and talk about what's right and what's wrong?
Yeah.
Because ultimately you know what's best for you.
Yeah.
And if you're not living your best life, that's purely your fault. It's as simple as that.
100%.
It's not your career's fault. It's not your parents' fault. It's not anything else.
Yeah.
For that matter.
Yeah.
If you're sitting in your life, cribbing about your life, it's strictly your fault.
Yeah.
I feel. And that's something that I can debate on for hours. Because I feel you need to have full accountability for your life.
100%.
Right? Whatever career you're choosing, whatever field you're choosing, whatever relationship you're choosing, you have to take accountability for that.
Yeah.
And if at the end of it, you're not happy,
Yeah.
then maybe something went wrong.
Yeah.
Right? In the sense that it's not about the outcome as well.
Yeah.
It's even about the process.
Yeah.
So if you've chosen something which you truly believe in, I can guarantee that you will never be unhappy. Because you will enjoy the process.
Yeah.
You will enjoy the time between you being here and between you actually, like putting in that first step or the action, and you will enjoy the result as well.
Yeah.
So that's something that I truly believe in.
Yeah.
And as long as you have that figured out, there's like it doesn't even matter like if you're attached to a success or not,
Yeah.
right? You're just happy.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's what really matters, I feel.
That's amazing. I love how this debate concluded with accountability and happiness, which is true. Completely aligned on that. No contradictions. You're fucking accountable for your life. Pick what phase, kind of sits right with you and work for it. You don't have to defend it to anybody. You don't have to convince anybody.
Absolutely.
You just accept it and fucking fight for it.
Yeah.
And it's completely in your hands.
And it's not the tequila talking.
And it's not the tequila talk. That's amazing. So Vibhoar, we're at the end of our big ass podcast shoot.
I want to ask you one thing. Like, I really want to ask you,
3 shots down.
after knowing you for a decently long time now, we always talk about how we can grow, how we're moving in the right direction. It's always like very positive and it's always, so we're always talking about growth. But in my personal experience, growth has always come from either my negative experiences or my failures or my learnings. So, and I've generally been very intrigued, where is your drive or passion coming from? With my personal experiences and my mindset that I have right now, I feel that it truly comes from a place of experiencing failure, experiencing some kind of lack in life, and that is the biggest lesson you can have, right? That's the best teacher in life. Where is it coming from? And not going too personal, but how have you been able to mold it in a way that it fuels your passion, your drive for what you're building right now?
Yeah.
That's something I'm truly intrigued by.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Maybe I think it's like reading too much psychology or philosophy or whatever it is. I was recording on my mic for backup recording on the phone, whatever picks up the fucking audio. That was a really great question. I think I answered a lot of it before the mic cut off, which was the drive is, I think I'm very curious to know what human beings are capable of, and more than that, what am I capable of? I think that's what keeps me pushing the needles. needle. I think the biggest regret would be like not actualizing my potential and kind of giving up too early. So I think whether it's breaking the narrative on everybody telling me, for me to, and fight for the truth. I think I saw a lot of patterns with people as simple as the next step in my life was after school, what is it, college. I wanted to do, like a average person, I wanted to go, to like a great US college and all that stuff, and you needed so much for it, and we didn't have it. And in India, the reason was, I see a lot of young people making 30, 40, 50K, and I just didn't feel like that's the truth after spending 4-5 years of education. I actually went to fucking college for a month, and I was like, what is this shit that we're reading? And I read it, and it's all outdated information. I said, this couldn't be the truth, And I think defying what people force you to accept as reality is really important. I think you define your reality. I'll define my reality. Who the fuck are the people to tell me what are my realities, right? I think it's really important for me to figure out who I am and what are we capable of, and kind of show that to the world, irrespective of, like you said, whenever you have a good idea, a lot of people will be naysayers, and you should know that you're onto something great. I think it's to give hope to those people who are built differently, who refuse to accept what is the standard, who refuse to accept what is the mediocre. Those 1% of the people who just need a little bit of courage, who need a little bit of history and blueprints to be like, hey, if this person did it, I could do it. Because I know a lot of people, it makes me feel alive. I don't want to feel dead. I feel dead if I'm doing what most people are doing. The only thing that keeps me alive is fighting for something bigger. The only thing that keeps me alive is making more money, building a bigger business, doing a better job, being smarter than somebody else, reading more books, doing whatever. I think it's my drive to... It's a kick for me to defy the odds. It's a kick for me to do something that's just not expected. It's a kick for me to be the underdog. And I think that's a driving factor. And underdogs win. I don't think the story is about underdogs being the underdogs. The reason underdogs are underdogs is because they fucking win in the end. Well, most people can't see where the win is. So I think I've always rooted for underdogs, whether it's like a Jake Paul or whether it's somebody else. I think I really resonate with it because I feel like I see a lot of that spirit in myself. And I owe it to the next generation to actualize what I'm capable of so that they can see. If Jake never, and he's somebody I look up to a lot, if he never pushed himself when he was kind of getting getting shit talked from everybody, he continues to rose like a phoenix. A phoenix burns up, it's finished, and then it rises on fire. I think that just inspired me, and because of what he did, I felt like I could do it. That meant a lot. I didn't have anybody in my immediate environment, and that's why for me to do content, or for me to work so hard, it's for me, of course, a lot, but I think a lot of that drive is for, I can't have other people give up, because I don't know who I would be if I gave up. I wouldn't recognize myself. So I think that's where the drive comes from.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that is us wrapping up the segment. That was a fun podcast. How was it on a scale of 1 to 10 for you?
I think it was a lovely podcast. The one thing that I liked about the podcast the most was the fact that it was absolutely candid. Even though Devika was carrying a script, but I feel the responses were candid. And we're not coming from a place of, trying to prove each other right or wrong. It's from a place of having a genuine conversation which can add value to someone else's life, right?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of this podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this. And I hope we get a chance to do this again.
Yeah.
And more often.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I would say the debate that we had, I think you lost.
Whatever helps you sleep at night, sure.
And also the short idea that you had, that sort of backfired.
My face.
That backfired.
Big time.
Next time, if you plan an activity in your podcast, you better plan it all the way through.
Oh, wow, huh? Yeah. Shots are being fired full on.
On the closing note, Vibhoar signing off.
That's amazing. Guys, me the best of this generation featuring Vibhoar. Let's go. Clapping. That's a wrap. Thank you, everybody.